after.
You'd be surprised. You'd be surprised.
Sorry, I was actually just listening to two things in my ears. I'm not. I am a man. I can't do two things.
Multitasking.
Yeah, sorry.
Okay, let's just do the one task for now then, which is focusing on this race number 2 in the Pit Bike 140 and Moto team, the twice aborted staging. James Blackburn and Jamie King, effectively the front row, as we already discussed. We've got Brad Ray coming through from the back row of the grid, or aiming to do so. We are missing a couple of riders now off their expected starting positions. We've got the front row blank and the fourth row blank as well. As we get underway, better start this time from Will Howarth, but he still ends up under pressure down into the first 10. He takes third place behind Jamie King and James Blackburn, renewing their rivalry up front. And then we've got a real group of riders from fourth position down. Fraser Kinnaird in the mix as well. The Moto team regular is right in that pack, but in such a large number of riders out on the circuit, it's the top 2 who've broken away and the rest of the pack filtering through, seemingly none the worse for wear.
And unlike on the previous start, Will Howarth on the first of the Moto team bikes actually kept up with our leaders King and Blackburn, which we didn't see on the first couple of starts, but maybe Will could be a spanner in the works. The two different classes, fundamentally different bikes, but still makes for some entertaining and close racing.
King leading it for the moment then, ahead of Blackburn in second. Will Howarth, as you said, has kept with. We've got a race on for fourth position as well. In fact, side by side now for fourth position. And it is Mark Evans who holds on to it ahead of Sean Whittaker, but not very much in that either. And look at the front battle as Blackburn goes lunging down the inside of Jamie King from a distance back and comes through for the race lead. Super pass from James Blackburn, getting the straight line speed up towards Christmas Corner, down the inside. Will Howarth gets the perfect view of it from third position.
And it's going to give him something to have a go at as well, because if they keep fighting away, this is only going to fall into his hands, which makes his race a hell of a lot easier. Ooh, and there's a bit of debris crawling off one of the bikes further back in the field, just off the exit of turn 6. Luckily not in the way, so still should be all right to proceed with that. But a clean start, touch wood, for the restart.
2 races in 1 at the moment. Jamie King, James Blackburn and Will Howarth up front in a group of 3 riders. Separate fight between Mark Evans and Sean Whittaker. Evans still holding on to it, but Whittaker keeps having a go off the final turn. Blackburn getting his wheels in line nice and early. He's got the run up to the far end of the circuit. He comes soaring around the outside line to become the new race leader. 2 laps, 2 passes, both on that same turn. Christmas Corner at the far end of the circuit. This time Blackburn making his way through ahead of Jamie King. Will Howarth still watching on in third position, the leader in the Moto team category.
What a fantastic move. That was showing off, frankly. It's just the confidence he took into the corner around the outside. We said that line had worked in previous races, but they look over their right shoulders, making sure they're not tripping over each other as they come into the left-hander before the boot, the hairpin right-hander before the final corner. It's very tight stuff indeed, and Will Howarth is still keeping up with Jamie King. So rather tight over the line. And it is Blackburn with a new fastest lap, 56.157, 0.271 of a second ahead of Jamie King, and Will Howarth in third place.
And now the other thing that we were hoping to watch out for, Brad Ray working his way through the field. He's made his way up to 6th position, and just after James Blackburn claimed a new fastest lap of the race, Brad Ray went 0.7 of a second quicker than that. So through up into 6th place, and Ray is soaring onto the tail now of Mark Evans, who dropped back behind Sean Whittaker on that last lap and now looks set to lose another position. Here comes Ray through the infield section on the tail of Mark Evans, who holds P5. Might not hold it for very long though. Ray is running something like 2.8 seconds a lap faster than each of these 2 riders. He's made his way past 1, now up into 5th position. Next up is Sean Whittaker, and Whittaker will surely be the next to fall, because again Ray is running more than 2 seconds a lap faster than the riders directly ahead of him.
Meanwhile, Jamie coming through turn number 1 and 2 to have his nose at the inside. Brad Ray up to 5th. He's now up to 4th place with another fastest lap, a 54 point. Still 6 or 7 tenths than the race leaders. He's only 0.7 behind. He's going to quicker than you expect, and it could well be a 4-bike battle for the lead through turn 6. Out of 12.
Good, because really, although Brad Ray has been fighting with the rider down the order. In reality, we know he's part of that race-leading battle. He is in 4th position now after having made that pass on Sean Whittaker. He's running half a second a lap faster than the top 3 riders, who are all matching one another's pace and running nose to tail, and has now broken clear from the group behind. Sean Whittaker and Mark Evans simply slotting straight back in to renew their rivalry. Evans having another go now at Sean Whittaker in what has become the race for 5th position. Brad Ray with another new fastest lap of the race of 54.9 as he comes over the line. 5.2 seconds is the gap to the lead, half a second a lap quicker still than James Blackburn, the race leader. Well, at that rate, it is going to take some time to make up 5 seconds, but we could be in for a close finish. Exactly,
we're not even half distance yet, so we do have some time, and it only takes one piece of lap traffic, one small mistake, and you can lose a lot of seconds. The race-leading battle, Blackburn, King and Howard, still going on quite well. They're not really fighting each other.
Rider to make his way past. Mark Evans slipping down to 7th position, so the top 2 riders on the starting grid, or the pre-programmed starting grid, that ended up making the decision to start from the back simply to give themselves a bit of sport, I think, and to leave the championship regulars to scrap it out up front. Well, they've now moved through into 4th and 5th positions respectively. So behind and looking comfortable for victory in their respective classes, but they're still fighting it out over the pride of the scratch win. It's going to be Blackburn now who's surely going to take it. Will Howarth in 2nd place will do enough to win within his own class in the moto team category, and quite comfortably as well. Brad Ray is going to come through in 3rd. That'll be enough for 2nd in the pit bike 140s as they head now towards the final lap, with Blackburn ahead of Howarth, Ray in 3rd position, Jamie King best of the rest in the pit bike 140 category.
It's been an entertaining race. It took us a few attempts, but when we did get into it, it's been a fantastic race, and we'll be looking forward to seeing them again later on.
Watch out on this final lap for Mark Evans, who's closed swiftly on Jamie King. King having a bad lap last time around, 58.4, so not sure what happened out there to him, but Evans has gained 3 seconds because of it, and Evans is now going to have a go on the tail of Jamie King to try and take 4th position away. Important in terms of the championship. King, who only scored 16 points compared to 25 for James Blackburn first time out. His championship lead may dip back below 100 points as the leaders come through around the final couple of turns. It's going to be a checkered flag, scratch win and pit bike 140 win for James Blackburn. 2nd over the line is Will Howarth. 3rd will go the way of Brad Ray. And how about that battle further down the order? They're still nose to tail for 4th and 5th in the scratch. This is for 3rd on the podium in the pit bike 140 category. King has it for the moment. King has it at the checkered flag. So Jamie King just getting the better of Mark Evans, who matched his pace on the final lap but couldn't find a way through. Sean Whittaker next over the line in 6th position. Blake Ansell, having recovered from that earlier fall, will come over the line in 7th. We've got a faller further down the order as well, actually.
Does rejoin though.
Not sure who that was. Darren Anderson taking 8th position ahead of Fraser Kinnaird, who, remember, is in contention in terms of the championship standings overall in the moto team class. Darren Anderson, the current championship leader, finishing in 2nd in the moto team category. Fraser Kinnaird, who is 3rd in the series standings, finishing 3rd in class as well. Rounding out the top 10 behind them, Ben Pascoe.
Thank you very much, Alex Arabian Danmar, concluding the finish, the entire race we managed to get through of the 2nd race this weekend of the Pit Bike 140 and Moto Team category. We have one more race coming up, race number 3 for the PB 140 and Moto Team later this afternoon. So thank you very much for staying tuned in to us here. This is FAB-Racing, and we are live all over Tinternet today. It's 12:30 exactly here in the UK, and I say that knowing that we have people listening all over the world to us, which is fantastic to have you with us. We are, by my calculations, half an hour, 30 minutes behind the schedule, and next out on track is the Mini GP70 race. What will happen in that race? Stay tuned, we will have live coverage, live radio, live visual radio coverage coming up. And also for the riders here at the track, you can download all of this weekend's radio coverage as a podcast as well. Very interesting to do so. You can head over to the motorsport.radio or you can just search for the Cool FAB-Racing on the iTunes podcast app. Very interesting. And if you want to relive your win, perhaps today, because these are the races that are not filmed, so we have the only coverage of today's racing. So if you're enjoying success, or if your family member or friend is enjoying success here at the track, then yeah, you can play it back, maybe. So yes, out on track now is the Mini GP70s and the grid getting underway, and like I said, we are some way behind schedule at the moment, but it should be Harvey Claridge lining up on pole position, and once again Dan Marr and Alex Raby will talk you through.
Race 2 in the Mini GP 70 category then, and we're attempting to recover time here. As you said, Lester, it's going to be straight on with the action, and also limiting warm-up laps and so on to get us straight on with racing, and that'll enable us to gain back a little bit of time, whilst also still enabling the riders to get all of their pre-prescribed number of laps. They've already had racing and warm-up earlier on today as well, so they've been on this track plenty this weekend. There won't be any surprises when they get down to the first turn. Here we go then with race 2 in the Mini GP 70 category. Harvey Claridge and Callum Beach on the front row, both finished on the podium first time out. Casey O'Gorman starts from P3 on the grid. Jay Abel alongside him. Third row, Brodie Crockford and Louis Rendell. Brodie Crockford second in the series standings at the moment to Harvey Claridge. He's got a lot of work to do in the remaining 2 races of the weekend if he wants to make up ground. Owen Mellor and Luke Coggins on row 4. Oscar Pinson and Elliot Dufton rounding out the top 10. And Chris Johnson completing the lineup here off the back of the grid for race 2 in the Mini GP 70 category. Here we go then, the riders watching for the lights. Second race of the weekend in the Mini GP 70s is underway. Fantastic start from Harvey Claridge. Good one as well from Casey O'Gorman, who moved straight through into third position, even tried to move up into P2 but couldn't quite get there. So it's Claridge first away. O'Gorman then chasing through from third, comes diving through to second. Brilliant move down the inside line.
So as they come up towards turn number 6 out of the complex for the first time and towards turn number 6, great move for Casey O'Gorman, who left it as late as he dared up the inside of Christmas Corner to take a very confident overtaking position, and all of a sudden, going through turn 7 and 8, he looks like he's going to be challenging for the race lead already against Harvey Claridge. It's a mirror image of what we saw in yesterday's first encounter from yesterday. So as they go through the left and then the hairpin right at the boot for the first time out of 12, Claridge leads Casey O'Gorman.
So Casey O'Gorman with a great couple of passes off the line to move through into second position. Callum Beach therefore dropping to third. Jay Abel maintaining station in fourth position ahead of Brodie Crockford, the current number 2 in the championship standings, who hasn't been able to make up any ground so far in this race. He could really do with Casey O'Gorman getting the better of Harvey Claridge here, and O'Gorman certainly is gaining ground at present on the early race leader.
He's paying a lot of close attention. He's a lot closer than you might expect in these early laps. As we were saying earlier, you use the first couple of laps just to make sure you sort of understand how the lead is taking it and what lines they're running, so you know where they're slower, where they're quicker. But in this example, Casey's just trying to follow him as closely as he can, but that's at detriment, especially through some of the quicker corners where he's just not quite able to keep the pace up, even if he is very quick in a straight line.
And Claridge has got the pace. He beat Casey O'Gorman first time out. He's matching him here. O'Gorman setting a new fastest lap of the race, but Claridge less than a tenth of a second slower, so still the gap is 0.3 of a second between them, that which was built up on the opening lap by Harvey Claridge. Less than a second behind, incidentally, the race leader is Callum Beach, who's putting in a good ride in third place. Jay Abel starting to drop back, and the rest of the field fairly well spread out until you get down to the mid-pack runners further down the order, including Oscar Pinson, who's gained quite a lot of ground on Luke Coggins.
That particular battle is going through turns 7 and 8 currently, and the bright orange bike that's obviously of Oscar Pinson, is just weaving his way around, just trying to find that little bit extra pace. These bikes are quite interesting just in terms of how they produce the pace and how they produce the racing, and altogether it's making for if they're making it, it's quite an interesting little battle they're going on so far. Over the line they go, 0.174 of a second, so it is getting close.
New fastest lap of the race from Casey O'Gorman, a 52.4 compared to a 52.5 for Harvey Claridge and a 52.6 for Callum Beach. The top three are going together, gapping Jay Abel, who sits in fourth, gapping Brodie Crockford in fifth. He's now 2 seconds in arrears of Jay Abel. And the other race that we were talking about, Luke Coggins versus Oscar Pinson, and Pinson has now found his way through. So that is for P7, Oscar Pinson getting the better of Luke Coggins, as we turn our attentions back to the race-leading squabble, where there's little more than a bike length now between Harvey Claridge and Casey O'Gorman.
They've been trading fastest laps as they go over the line. They're extremely close now through turn 1 and 2. It's not even a bike length anymore. You could probably fit about a wheel and maybe a wheel and a half in there. It's that close. In the toe, moves up to the right-hand side, goes for the lead. Casey O'Gorman takes the lead on the inside line at Christmas Corner on the right-hand side. He's got to defend it coming into turn number 6, but with the rides he's been doing today, defensive really is his way.
Casey O'Gorman having worked his way through to the front, monotonous, consistent lap times. He's now got to negotiate lap traffic, but he does that easily enough, and so does Harvey Claridge, following him through down the inside. It's O'Gorman then who's hit the front as they come around towards the completion of lap number 5. Ahead of Harvey Claridge, Callum Beach still in third, still keeping, broadly speaking, with the top two, but he hasn't been able to keep up with the relentless pace of Casey O'Gorman over the last 2 laps. 52.2, 52.2, 52.3. Incredible consistency from O'Gorman, and that's what's helped him to hit the front. That lap 5 slightly slower from Casey O'Gorman, clearly because he had to negotiate Harvey Claridge as he made his way through.
And make an overtaking move, of course, as well. That tends to slow you down just a little bit. But as they make their way now up towards turn 6, once again, 7 laps to run then. We were nearly half distance already in this race. And Harvey Claridge, again, we saw yesterday some great battles between the pair of them. Is it going to be one apiece each?
The next battle to watch out for now is Brodie Crockford versus Louis Rendell over P5. Rendell almost half a second quicker on lap number 5, gaining in and reducing the gap to less than a second as they come through the infield section now, ahead of an isolated 7th place Oscar Pinson. The race is for P5. Brodie Crockford up ahead of Louis Rendell, who's had the outright pace advantage so far here as Casey O'Gorman flashes over the line to set another new fastest lap of the race. But it's line astern now for 5th and 6th. Brodie Crockford just 0.2 of a second ahead of Louis Rendell, who had set a new personal best on lap number 5, who makes another 0.4 of a second on lap number 6. There's nothing in it now.
And now he is just sat, not quite in the dirty air, but as close as you can get to it, I suppose. Casey O'Gorman on that last lap, though, 52.0, almost half a second quicker than Harvey Claridge. 0.7 of a second the race lead is now. And this battle between, as you were saying, Brodie Crockford and Louis Rendell, going through turns 7 and 8, and they're just nearly tripping over each other. It's that tight. They're barely giving each other inches of space, but the fantastic thing that's going on so far is they're just calculating, waiting for it to happen. Maybe thinks about the left and the right at the end of the lap, doesn't go for it. Got to be clever about it.
Rendell's got to have a go as quickly as possible at Crockford, because if he doesn't, Oscar Pinson is going to draw up onto their tail. He's running faster than both of them. Crockford stepping on it that lap around, a 53.8. That's more like it. Louis Rendell with a 53.9 and Oscar Pinson holding station in 7th position. But on lap number 6, Rendell had closed on Crockford. Pinson had closed on the pair.
And speaking of closing in on the pair, Claridge is catching up to O'Gorman. New fastest lap from him, 51.9. That was about 0.4 of a second quicker than Casey O'Gorman on that last lap. Only 0.338, and it's not even that as they come through the left and the right at the final parts and up to the boot of this lap. Just 4 laps left to go as they cross the line now. It was a second or so gap. It's definitely not going to be that anymore over the line. Claridge has got the bit between his teeth. He can smell a position. And just to take it off topic just a little bit, the clouds have gone a little bit darker, haven't they, Alex?
Yes, that's a good spot. Things did certainly cloud over last lap around, and things are becoming complicated as well for Casey O'Gorman up front. His pace dropped well off over the last 2 laps. Harvey Claridge has picked it up. And now, at this stage of the race, it looks as though Claridge is being held up, quite frankly, by Casey O'Gorman, who was clearly had the pace advantage in the opening half of the race. A few spots of rain. That's the first sign of dampness we've really had here today at Whilton Mill, as Casey O'Gorman and Harvey Claridge come through.
Now, would you call this psychological rain or real rain? Because
no, that's real. That's real. Look.
Oh yeah,
that I'm giggling at there. That is real rain. People are actually getting wet.
People are actually getting wet. Okay, we'll take your word for it. As Casey O'Gorman and Harvey Claridge just 0.247 of a second so far. They're getting very close again, coming into Christmas corner. Is it a late move there by Claridge? He doesn't think about it. Lap traffic to negotiate, and down has gone one of the riders. Goodness, was that Harvey Claridge has gone down?
It is indeed. Claridge has gone down from
Running
second
back
position,
to
trying to close on Casey O'Gorman. Straight over to the bike, desperate to get back on with it, because Claridge is the championship leader, and if he fails to score in this one, it's going to cost him massively in the series overall. It's enabling O'Gorman to blast clear, but that is the first sign that those one or two spots of rain that you were taking the mickey out of me about, Dan, are real, because they went for it and they've gone down.
But did you hear the gasps downstairs from the static mics downstairs? Did you hear the gasps from all the crowd downstairs? If you're watching this back, go back and replay that moment, because that was great to hear. He's back on the bike and he's up and riding, but Casey O'Gorman into the lead. Callum Beach second then.
Don't go replaying it back until we've got to the end of this race, though, because there is still some mileage left in it, particularly this battle between Brodie Crockford and Louis Rendell over what is now fourth position, ahead of course of Harvey Claridge. Casey O'Gorman's got it 2.5 seconds cleared. Jay Abel is 8 seconds back from Beach, even in third position, isolated. It's Crockford versus Rendell, weaving their way through at the top end of the circuit in the race for fourth position. Crockford with a real opportunity to make up some ground on Harvey Claridge here. Claridge pulled out 15 points in the championship standings in race number 1, but Claridge, having gone down, presents a golden opportunity to Brodie Crockford, who looks set to hold on here. He's opened up a little bit of a margin on this lap over Louis Rendell.
He just needs enough, really, doesn't he, in order to keep him ahead. 0.3 of a second over the line for the last time. The last lap flag is out now, so Casey O'Gorman starts lap 11. That starts lap 12 now. He's on to lap 12. And it definitely does that the circuit's getting a bit darker here, so it's not going to affect our races this morning, or this afternoon now, but later on today, I reckon it could be a little bit damp.
Although we were laughing about the wet weather initially, bearing in mind that they were running in the 52s, they're now running in the 55s, so it might not have had a huge impact. It might not be what a British person would call rain, but it is certainly enough to slow the pace down by a few seconds a lap. Casey O'Gorman now can nurse it home. He doesn't need to push. He's dropped off the pace well and truly. Callum Beach a second faster than him on that previous lap, but Casey O'Gorman is making his way now through towards the checkered flag, through the boot and on towards the final turn for the final time. The checkered flag being readied. It's going to be Casey O'Gorman with his first race victory of the weekend in class. He takes the win, second over the line. A great ride from Callum Beach, who kept up with the battle between O'Gorman and Claridge in the early stages before eventually dropping back. Third place is with Jay Abel. Brodie Crockford holding on ahead of Louis Rendell, who drops back as the race goes on. Disaster for Harvey Claridge, who dropped to the fringes of the top 10 with that fall. Oscar Pinson takes advantage to move 6th after his earlier battle with Luke Coggins, in which he was able to find his way through. Owen Mellor next over the line comes through in 8th position. The top 10 strung out in the end, with big gap behind the top 3 to that race between Crockford and Rendell, and Harvey Claridge eventually comes through in 10th position. So after gaining 15 points and opening up, extending his championship lead in race number 1, Harvey Claridge drops it under the few spots of rain here at Whilton Mill, comes down, ends up in 10th, and concedes what he's gained in race number 2 in the Mini GP 70s.
Thank you very much, Alex Raby and Dan Marr. And yes, for the listeners listening online, I can tell you the atmosphere is turned somewhat dark. In that, the weather is closing in on us, and we had a couple of spots of rain, and we have currently dark clouds. So it's not properly raining, but it is, I would say, spitting with rain. So people it's almost got to the stage now, perhaps, Dan Marr, where people might be thinking about, if there's any more rain, then it might be worth putting wets on. So that's not currently the case. I think it's going to be run under a dry condition, but it's sort of touch and go at the moment as the Pit Bike Open bikes head out onto track. And yes, it's officially going to be a dry race. It's not actually raining that much, but it is, let's say, threatening with dark, ominous clouds here at Whilton Mill. Dan Marr joins us once again, and well, this should be good, shouldn't it, Dan?
It should be quite entertaining. The Pit Bike Opens are always a entertaining spectacle. Sadly, it's not going to be wet in this one. We might see that later. I've just poked my head outside. The humidity's dropping a little bit. You can certainly feel that there's water in the air, and it's spitting lightly. But again, I reckon it's the air pressure and the air temperature itself, which has got a bit heavy and a bit cooler, is not really helping the conditions with the tyres and such like. Of course, some of these guys and girls do run with tyre warmers, but by the time they've gone into form up in the dummy grid, gone round for a lap and been on the colder circuit, they're losing a lot of temperature.
I love how now that we've got Dan alongside us, we've also got an official Cool FAB-Racing weatherman,
Michael Fitch,
analysing the density of the air and the air temperature. I like it. We'll bring him back again. We're into line now for race number 2 in the Pit Bike Open category. It's funny because we immediately started to chuckle when we did have a few spits of rain, because we always end up having a debate about whether it's can officially be declared a wet race or not. Well, is it wet? It's damp. There are areas on the circuit, particularly over on the entrance, the right-hander at the entrance to the infield section, where there is quite clearly a slippery surface on the rubbered inline on the inside. And well, we saw that the pace of the last race dropped off by 4 seconds a lap, so they are quite clearly being affected, these riders. And as the rain just ever so slightly comes down ahead of this one, we should be in for a treat once again. It could just shake things up. We'll be going straight into the racing, and I have also been advised that this will be a 10-lap race. We are trying to recover time, of course, after earlier delays due to injured riders and incidents and so on and so forth. 10 laps then for race number 2 in the Pit Bike Open category. Riders watching for the lights then. Race 2 with the Pit Bike Opens. Charlie Nesbitt and Max Cook lining up off the front row. Brandon Payne just creeping before we got underway. Now we get underway. Great start from Charlie Nesbitt, winner of race number 1. Gets to the first turn first, ahead of Max Cook. Straight up into second. The top 2 immediately breaking away. A big gap behind them to the rest of the pack that filters through.
So as they come through, Christmas corner for the first time out of 10, as you say, Max Cook giving it all he could do to give Charlie Nesbitt a good run. Notably, of course, these are all running on slicks. Even though it's not wet out there, the temperature in them, they're going to struggle on them these early laps. So do expect maybe a few more mistakes than you could normally understand. But everyone does seem to have made it through clearly and cleanly through turns 7 and 8. But Nesbitt and Cook have really run off with the lead. There's a massive wheelie for Charlie Nesbitt, half of the back straight, just front wheel firmly up in the air. Just so much confidence.
Well, the top 2 have broken well clear. We've got a pack behind them. Brandon Payne, Gareth Roberts and Will Howarth. Howarth had a couple of nibbles at Gareth Roberts over 4th position, but couldn't find a way through. Can't find a way through just yet. Charlie Nesbitt then with a 55.3 on lap number 1, opening 0.2 of a second on that lap, but they're running something like 5 seconds off qualifying pace, at least on the opening lap, which you would admittedly expect to be slightly slower than a full speed lap, as Will Howarth comes flying around the outside now to move through into 4th place.
Great move there for Will, and he's progressing quite nicely, as we saw earlier on. He's really got a good understanding of the conditions out there and how it's been feeling this morning, so you can imagine he's feeling rather confident himself. But as they make their way down the back straight, he's leading a big gaggle of bikes as they make their way into the Boots complex for the second time out of 10.
The leaders, meanwhile, are coming through to complete lap number 2, and actually to negotiate the first of the lap traffic is Charlie Nesbitt, who leads the way, a 52.2 on that lap. That's a little bit closer, but still some way adrift compared to qualifying pace. Max Cook in second position, half a second behind, and then that 5-second gap that I was talking about, a big one to Ryan O'Grady, who sits in third position. Will Howarth and Gareth Roberts both getting the better of Brandon Payne, who's already dropped back from third to sixth. So whether there's a mechanical issue around that or whether he hasn't quite been able to adapt to the conditions, Brandon Payne is struggling here in race number 2 in the Pit Bike Open.
And it's getting lighter. The sun is trying to come out, or at least it's getting brighter, if not anything else. So conditions getting a little bit better. Of course, they were into the 49.9s yesterday for Charlie Nesbitt and co. So on a 52 now, so about 2.5 seconds off the pace. 52.058 for Max Cook. He's now half a second behind Charlie Nesbitt in the lead. Ryan O'Grady still in third, and that big old battle for fourth onwards is still Howard.
Will Howarth under pressure, Dan, to interrupt you. Will Howarth loses a place down at the far end of the circuit. I don't know if that's Brandon Payne recovering or if that's Gareth Roberts, who has made a pass, and we've got other changes. They negotiate lapped runners as well, just to throw some extra chaos into the mix. It's Charlie Nesbitt and Max Cook, as you said, who have been trading fastest laps, and it's Cook with the fastest time at the moment.
But it's still half a second gap. That's the crucial thing. You can trade as many fast laps you want. If you're not going significantly faster, you're not going to significantly catch up, That's just the laws of physics. But Charlie Nesbitt going even quicker, 50.9. That's more like it. Only a second off yesterday's time. Now 7/10 effectively off Max Cook. But the battle for fourth place, Will Howarth down to fifth. Gareth Roberts now up to fourth. And Brandon Payne not too far away either. So as they negotiate a couple of stragglers as well, it's all getting rather tight as they come up to Christmas Corner on lap 5 out of 10.
Of course, at that turn on the previous lap, that's where Gareth Roberts managed to make it through at the expense of Will Howarth. Howarth trying to recover now from P5. It has already been a successful weekend, as you said, in more than one category for Will Howarth, who's currently running in fifth position here. Charlie Nesbitt then with a 50.9 last lap around, a 51.1 for Max Cook on the same lap. 7/10 of a second the gap's up to. It's never been more than that, and it looks as though it's gone even more on that lap. Charlie Nesbitt with a 50.4. 8/10 of a second faster than Max Cook on lap number 5. Has that settled down the race leading squabble? Ryan O'Grady with a new personal best. So the times are coming back to the riders. As you said, that little bit of brightness and at the end of those spits of rain, and the times are tumbling as this race goes on.
Of course, silly as it may sound, of course, it's brighter so the riders can see it a little bit better. It does help, in all seriousness, of course. Having it a little bit brighter just puts you in a bit of a better mood, I find. So it just helps bring out the best in everyone, I suppose.
Well,
but
it's put a smile on my face anyway.
You're laughing at me, of course. But a 50.4, that's a very good time for Charlie. And I've got a funny feeling he's going to set another quick one in just a moment. He's just coming out of the final corner, over the line. What is it? Oh no, it was slower. Well, never mind.
Curse of the commentator. Charlie Nesbitt runs half a second slower on that lap after his new fastest lap of the race. We both said that the times were getting faster every lap. Well, apparently that stops on lap number 6. Charlie Nesbitt leads it by 2 seconds. He doesn't really need to push, to be perfectly honest. Max Cook hasn't got the pace to match him. Even on that slower lap that time around from Charlie Nesbitt, Cook was dropping back. Ryan O'Grady still sits in third. Another new personal best lap from him. Gareth Roberts a second behind in fourth, and Will Howarth still sticking with them. There's a group of 4 riders now from third place down to 6th before we have a little bit of a gap to Josh Ingram circulating in 7th place. But a real group of 4 riders doing battle for third position at the moment. The top 2 places somewhat settled down.
And of course, with only 3 laps for them left to run, race very slowly coming to the end. And it's, again, Charlie Nesbitt, 1.9 seconds now, the gap. They're back down into the 52. So they had a couple of laps where they could push like crazy, and now they know, well, we got so much of a big gap. I mean, well, the leaders still haven't come over. Ryan O'Grady's yet to come over. What's that? Oh, 14.6 seconds.
It looks set to be another 5 points gained for Charlie Nesbitt in the context of the championship. He made up 5 in race number 1 with a race victory ahead of Max Cook, and it looks as though he's going to do the same here. It's not going to make a major impact because Max Cook is the only rider of the top 5 in the series standings to have appeared at all the rounds, and after going unbeaten at round number 5, he has a significant lead. Well, it was 151 points coming into this weekend, and still it's Max Cook who looks set to take the championship in 2017, but some revenge and a confidence booster here for Charlie Nesbitt, who leads the way now with 2 laps remaining.
although the gap did come down ever so slightly, 1.6 seconds as opposed to 1.7 or 1.8. So it ebbs and flows just slightly with 2 laps left to run in the second race of the Pit Bike Open. The battle for third place, though, has really gotten underway. Ryan O'Grady and Gareth Roberts through turn number 2, and as they head up towards Christmas Corner, Gareth not really close enough to make a proper move, but he is going to slowly consider it. With a couple of laps left to go, though, he's going to have to make a little bit of a forceful move in order to take the position as they come down to turn 6.
Oh, he's down the inside.
Goes wide, though.
Down the inside. He's managed to hold the position because there was a massive lock-up from Ryan O'Grady. So Roberts came thundering down the inside on the right-hander at the entrance to the infield complex. It looked, as you said, as though he'd gone too wide, but O'Grady went for the cutback, twisted the throw perhaps a little bit too early, got completely sideways and ended up dropping back in 4th position. The riders aren't having it all their own way, and again, much to my amusement, we've got a few spots of rain in our commentary position, so the conditions are mixed, and that's enabled Gareth Roberts to get the better of Ryan O'Grady. But I tell you what, you can see that those two have really upped their pace, because compare them to Will Howarth, who was ahead of them at one stage in this race. He's now 2 seconds in arrears with 1 lap to go.
Well, it's not going to be of much good, I'm afraid, because we are on the last lap now, so it's all coming slowly to a close. It's been an entertaining race again for Charlie Nesbitt, a dominant performance, 1,000th of a second shy of Max Cook on that last lap. The gap is coming through the final couple of corners for the final time. Charlie Nesbitt's going to take another victory.
Through the final turn then to take the checkered flag, Charlie Nesbitt makes it 2 wins out of 2. Max Cook over the line in 2nd position, maintains his championship lead, and it's going to be Gareth Roberts, if he can safely negotiate the final turns, who will take 3rd position after making that overtake on Ryan O'Grady. Excellent ride from Gareth Roberts to make it onto the podium once again, as O'Grady gets relegated to 4th position. Will Howarth over the line in 5th. He was with that group in the early parts of the race. In fact, there was a group of 5 riders in a pack at one stage, but Howarth drops back. Brandon Payne behind them, well clear of Josh Ingram. Callum Wybrow on his pace takes 8th position. Craig Walker and Mark Evans rounding out the top 10.
Thank you very much, Alex Raby and Dan Marr, for commentating on the 2nd race this weekend of the Pit Bike Open, and congratulations to Charlie Nesbitt once again getting the victory, only just though over Max Cook, and we heard from both of them after yesterday's first race, and Max saying that Charlie mugged him off at the start. Maybe we can have a quick catch up with them a bit later to find out the story of that race from their point of view, perhaps. That'll be interesting to see. So we've heard from Race Control that the remaining races before lunch, AC40 Pro race next, and the Mini F1 sidecar race will have slightly shortened amount of laps, so that we can hopefully catch up and maybe even go to lunch around the time that we were intending to go to lunch. So that is what we have heard from Race Control. So the AC40 Pro race next will have a slightly reduced number of laps, as will the Mini F1 sidecars as well, which is the last race before lunch. Give you a quick weather update. Dan Marr is here with us, aka Michael Fish, weather expert extraordinaire, who can tell us the weather pressure as well, which is something that, as Alex said, we've never had before, and I'm not even sure I fully understand it, Dan.
It's trying to come down, and it is coming down much heavier than it has been. There's like bits that are actually falling onto my hand rather than like really, really little bits now.
Oh, so it was just the technical stick your hand out of the door to see if it's raining, that sort of thing?
I didn't realise you were watching me.
Okay. Because I could have done that. I could have been the weather expert, you see.
Well, you've told me before, don't take the credit if you don't want to do it. But yeah, it's weird. The wind's not picked up too much. But as the bikes come out for the next one, it's going to make conditions interesting for the next race.
Certainly will, and the rain seemingly dropping a little bit harder on the windows here, which would indicate to me, Alex Raby, that the rain is picking up slightly.
Well, I'm going to leave the weather forecast to Dan.
Literally what I just said,
Each person up here has their role, Lester. Don't try to shake things up. That's not appropriate.
Change for change's sake.
It does look, though, the intrigue is always about at what point it gets officially declared a wet race, which always provides me with a little bit of entertainment.
Yeah, there was a brief discussion about whether it was wet enough to be declared a wet race before the start of that last race, and
doesn't really look it though.
Well, it wasn't before, and well, it is coming down more consistently.
Yeah, it's coming down a bit thicker now as well, actually. So,
well, if it passed the touch your hand out of the window test, then it must be coming down slightly heavier.
Yeah, well, see, it was getting sunny as well, and now it's gone a lot darker again. So, typical English summer day.
Actually, it is quite clear that it's coming down with slightly more intensity now as we prepare to get underway with race 2 in the AC40 Pros. Coming into line with Johnny Garners lining up on pole position. This is one of the closest championships in terms of the points overall, with 60 points separating first to fourth, and those 4 riders are in the top 4 positions on the grid. It is quite clearly starting to come down somewhat heavier now, and it's no great surprise therefore that riders have started to peel off into pit lane. So obviously with permission, I presume that this is going to be a pause, and I'm just hearing from race control, waiting for official confirmation on this, but it sounds as though we might use this as the opportunity to have our break. The break would usually be at the end of a round of races, but it looks as though the break will take place this round at least slightly earlier, with the hope of getting the weather clear. So it's back over to you, Lester, then. We will pause for rain. It's almost like cricket but on 2 wheels. It's a rain delay here at Whilton Mill.
I don't know if any of the if the BSB riders would I don't know what they take to their racing being described as cricket on 2 wheels, but
they wouldn't have a lunch break.
Well, anyway, they're entitled to one now, because it is officially spitting, i.e. raining, and we are breaking for lunch, as Alex correctly said. That is the hottest news, hot from the press, from Race Control. So let's go and get some lovely lunch.
Food?
Yes, food. I was going to describe it as some wet food.
Grub.
But, yes, indeed. Let's go and break for a little while, and I'm presuming the scheduled... we haven't been told exactly how long lunch will be, but it was due to get back underway at 1:50. We will be back on the tannoy here for the benefit of the people at the track to let you know exactly when to get ready.
Yeah, just since I'm up here in race control, I have a bit of a line on that. We are keeping to the original time schedule, so we'll be back underway at 1:50. Right. By then, we'll have given the weather some time to sort out whether it actually wants to rain properly and give us some actual wet conditions, or whether it will dry out and enable us to have a dry race. But no doubt about it, we are going for a break now at this stage, and for those of you listening live online, perhaps now is the time to go and make that cup of tea and then come back to us after the scheduled lunch break, which will close at 1:50.
And thank you very much to Alex Raby and Dan Marr providing expert commentary all morning long. We will be back online on Facebook Live for the remaining races of the day, kicking off with the AC40 Pros just before 1:50 this afternoon. Thank you very much for tuning in, and we'll be back after lunch.
The original and best British championships for mini bikes. This is Cool Fab Racing.